Uhuru, Uhuru, touch touch one Africa, one nation. So that's what it's about. Welcome everyone, and as we say in Kiswahili, we say Aquaba. That means welcome, and you are in the lovely Aquaba Hall here in the city of St. Louis. We're located at 4101 West Florissant. So if those of you watching us online, if you're not here now, you got time. We will be here to about 3 to about 5 o'clock, 5:30 today. It's kind of a special event, so we will have some extended. So we have people coming in, so we want to appreciate that. And once again, you can listen to this on YouTube, and also you can follow us on Facebook. And once again, I want to thank those who are in the virtual world. And of course, as always, for those who aren't aware, we say this word Uhuru, and for those who know, you know, but those who don't, it means freedom. So then freedom is another Kiswahili word, and it means to freedom, but it means that we think about freedom, and we ought to think about freedom 365 days in a week, in a year, 365. So every day, freedom is on our mind as we get up and as we go to bed. So this week's program, Sunday Rally, the title of this week is Victory to the Uhuru 3, Down with Colonialism. Uhuru, let's give it up for the victory of the Uhuru 3. Uhuru, not one day, not one day. Uhuru. That was the part of the chat that was coming out as the revolutionary forces came out of the courthouse that was in Tampa Bay, Florida in December of 2024. So we want to appreciate that. So once again, today's theme is Victory to the Uhuru 3, Down with Colonialism. Our Sunday rallies here in St. Louis are brought to you by the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, which was formed in 1991 in the city of Chicago, and the motto being bread, peace, and Black power. And we're going to say that is in our lifetime. You can also go to impedum.org to find out more information about the organization. That's impedum.org. And if you are so inclined to, you can also donate /donate. And you can become a member and learn more about the 77-point platform of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. So before we go further into our program, we're going to sing the African Nation Fight song. We're going to ask that you please stand at this particular time. The lyrics of the African Nation Fight song is a song that comes from the Uhuru Movement. You'll find the words on the screen right behind me, right before you. Uhuru. Uhuru.
Shout Uhuru for our freedom. We are winning. We'll dance and sing songs when revolution's won. We are winning. Africa's best starters and sons. We are winning. One million strong, yes, we are one. We are red, black, and green for you and me. We are won't stop the fight till we are free. We are winning. African workers, we must unite. We are winning. Against was out of the parasite. We are ready. Long live the liberation of
African nation, freedom, United States, socialism, our creation, 1 billion strong. Yes, we are. We are. Let us be. We are.
Carry the torch of Jean-Jacques Dessalines. We are ready. Coup peut-être, tous les cailles. We are ready. We will rejoice when the colonizers die. We are ready. Long live the liberation of African nation.
Socialism, our creation, 1 billion strong. Yes, we are.
Fight like Fanny Lou and
We are winning.
remember our struggle.
Always be true. We are winning.
Harlem to Brazil, to Tanzania. We are winning. We fight and live for free Africa. We are winning. Long live the liberation of African nation.
We are
Patrice Lumumba's life won't be in vain. Keep up the work in Marcus Garvey's name. We are independent and free is what we will be. Africa will bask in our victory. We are winning. Long live the liberation of African nation.
We are winning. One Africa! One Africa! The rally. All right, Uhuru, so bring your rally on each and every Sunday we're here. All right, we're going to move forward with the program. Next up, we have political education coming from the Burning, it is coming out of the Burning Spear newspaper, but it's the 14-point platform of the African People's Socialist Party presented to us today by Comrade Westbrook. Uhuru. Touch one, touch on. Touch one, touch on. This go. I'm Westbrook, and first of all, I want to salute my leadership, Chairman Malia Shatilla, DC owners Anaya Shatilla, and our President, Dr. Odom. Uhuru. Today we will be dealing with point 7 out of the 14 points platform. But before I proceed, I want to raise self criticism because even though I appreciate the participation, we've been merely scratching the surface. So if we will, with y'all help, can we dive a little deeper today?
Well,
And from here, can we get it right? And from here on forward, can we do merely than scratch the surface?
well, yeah.
Because we know that each in our lives is affected one way or other by these points. We know particular this point 7, we finally glad that Leonard Petier is home. We finally glad that let's talk for that. We finally glad that no day, no what? Dying, right? So we finally glad
Not one dime.
what you said.
Not one.
So make a long story short, this particular point itself, I think should be hit close to home. So I expect a little bit participation, a lot of participation from out of us. But with no further ado, we want complete amnesty for all African political prisoners and prisoners of war from the U.S. prisons or their immediate release to any friendly country which will accept them and give them political asylum. We believe that the U.S. prisons are also used as the illegitimate tool for torturing, murdering, and holding captives those courageous daughters and sons of Africa who through their patriotic deeds or spoken or written words in support of the cause of our liberation have become political prisoners and prisoners of wars. We believe, along with the majority of the people of the world, that it is our duty and the duty of the colonized and the enslaved to resist slavery and colonialism and to fight for socialism. And to do so, and those who do so are patriots and heroines and heroes and should be held to the highest esteem.
Well,
Uhuru. Uhuru. I will try to be brief, but to dive deep with my own issues, because like I said, these points affect us all. But I'll be brief with this. I started to mention last week, but I didn't, and I started not to mention it this week, but I feel compelled to mention it. But I was a potential martyr and a political prisoner a few years ago. We know that, and it's still touchy, so I'm not fit to give the whole issue, so I don't hope I don't sound like broken words. But back in 2017, 2017, I had a radio show on a network called Rise Network. And it was each and every Friday, and the name of my show was Pivotal Moments. Well, you know, that was around the same time that it was located downtown Ferguson. That was around the same time that Trump got in office. But the things I was speaking, I have it was my show, but I have 3 other co-hosts. It was 4 of us. The things I was speaking, the co-host didn't want to, hey man, that's a dangerous topic. I don't want to speak about that. So the co-hosts kept changing up. Some of the callers calling in was some was solidarity, some wasn't. That's dangerous where you speaking. Do you know where you at? Make a long story short, the radio host tried to tell not the host, the owner of the building itself that the host was written from. Try to get the Rise Network to censor me, Rise Network, because
we was getting ratings, they wasn't assisting me. I had a strange phone call, June 16th, I believe, 2017. And the person that I thought I got the phone call from, when I called them back, because they woke me up, they claimed, no, I didn't call you. But since I do have you on the phone, come on over and do such and such. Came on over to this particular address. I was down there executed at the particular address. I was forced to protect myself at this particular address. Now, because of such a matter that happened then, it's clearly self-defense. I called the ambulance. You know, they came. I'm here, told them where the weapon and the victim was. Make a long story short, they locked my black so-and-so up. And they refused to let me go. Not to draw this out, but I worked the magic from the inside. Major mother, my son mother worked the magic from the outside. And my grandmother worked the magic, and I was able to get out. While I was out, you would think a smart individual would go by the wayside and shut up. But I joined this movement within that process. I joined this movement. So it was hard for me to shut up when I felt like I had a voice. And I had a people that says, you know what? Fofi told me after the I'll leave that alone. Make a long story short, because I didn't show up and sat by the wayside, they killed Major Mother. It's a lot of things that I don't mention. Some folks ask me why I'm alone, because I know what they capable of doing to political prisoners. I know what they capable of doing to the main person that think they have a voice for change, either a written voice or a spoken voice or in solidarity. Make a long story short, this in 17, killed in 18. I finally was not guilty is on my own. I finally took the stand and took the court, and God finally, but make a long story short, because of a voice, they will try to make an example out of you. I'm off me. Look at who was 3 that's before us. Oh, girl. Hey, y'all, let's do more than just scratch the surface. We are dealing with something that's pertaining this 14-point platform. I apologize for holding the flow long, but surely, before I go in further discussion, before I go into the questions, surely I know someone out in the audience have a similar situation, someone having an audience where they might feel where I might have been through. They might identify with the Uhuru 3 might have went through. And if so, here come the mic. Give us a couple of seconds of your story, if you will, before I proceed forward. Uhuru. Now I know you got a story, brother. I know you do. And I don't want to beat up on you since you know my first time seeing you. You know what I'm talking about? But during me furthering this right here, either doing that or after that, whenever I'm talking to you, you know what I'm talking to, bro. Whenever you get the nerves to come up and disclose what the state has been dealing, if not with you, with your people, you know what I'm talking about, come forth and share the stories with us. Because a lot of us, they think that I thought that I was dealing with something by myself, but not to know that it's not just me, it's thousands of us. But if someone open our voice, if they share their story, if you might share your story, they let the masses of people know, no, we're not by ourselves. We are collective, therefore we all have a voice. But I think I draw that out. So let me reiterate a few things. Before I iterate a few things, Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is a really an important point number 7. And the thing that I would just remind us of is that this is a platform of the African People's Socialist Party. It's not just some words that's written down. It's a statement to the world of what it is that we believe, why people should join this party, what it gives instruction of what it is that we're fighting against and what we're fighting for. And it's really important. What Comrade Westbrook just did was to take it and give it an immediate kind of personal approach. And the fact is that when you're colonized, the colonizer makes the law. That's who makes the law. If you're enslaved, the person who is enslaved or the people who are enslaved do not make the law. If they made the law, then slavery would be illegal, wouldn't it?
It would be.
And if we made the law, then colonialism would be illegal. So if the ones who are enslavers and colonizers make the law, then that law will protect slavery and colonialism. All the law, that's what it's about. It's about protecting that system. Because in the final analysis, what you're talking about when you talk about law is the opinion of the ruling class. That's what law is. There's nothing, I know that, Christians remember Moses coming down. I know Comrade Westbrook can talk about it. And with these things on the tablets of clay and what have you, what God wrote on in the 10 Commandments, etc. And people like to act like Moses had something to do with the law that we are confronted with. And they want us to believe that, by the way. And that's why when you go to a courtroom, it's no accident that the courtrooms are structured much like churches. And you got a priest sitting behind the thing in the black robe and what have you. You have rules, you have to be quiet, you got the high ceilings and the whole bit. It gives this mystery to this relationship, but there's nothing mysterious about it. It's a relationship that is based on colonial domination. Our people are dominated by colonial power. And we're saying that there's a way that you have to fight against this. You have to recognize what it is and fight against it, and we do. And that's why we have these 14 points here as a part of our platform, because we want you to be able to see what we believe in, and we remind ourselves all the time. That's why we come to this meeting and talk about it, because we are reminded this is what we believe in. This is what, and somebody doesn't have to send out an order or instructions about what position we should be taking about many things, because it's right here what our position is. On prisoners, political prisoners, no one has to tell us that we should be supporting these comrades, Leonard Peltier. We should be supporting comrades who are locked up in prison. It tells us right here. This is our program. So even if I don't have a time to get to Westbrook or somebody else in our party, someplace in the world around a particular question, they can go to the 14 points. They can find out exactly what it is that we believe around this question. They can take action, right? That's what this is about. They can take action and know, and they're informed about what this action is about. We're living in a time now where this whole system based on slavery and that is a system is in trouble. It's in distress. And because it's in trouble and distress, it doubles down to try to hold itself together. And one of the ways it holds itself together is through the utilization of things like the courts and the prisons and the police and these organizations of repression that facilitate this, what they call law and order. In fact, they like to talk about the United States being a country of, how do they put it? They put it with rules of law. It's what governs it. And somebody said, wow, that's really progressive. They're talking about rules of law, but who makes the damn law? You see, and that's what we're dealing with. That rule of law is something that punishes the enslaved anytime we try to break out of it. How many people, can I see the hands of the people who know who Nat Turner was? Okay, everybody knows who Nat Turner was. That's good. Because do you think Nat Turner was justified telling people, this group of people he had organized in 1831, to go out and fight for liberation. He said, strike at night and spare no one. Spare no one. He was a brutal guy, they said. He said, strike at night. Sound like guerrilla warfare or something, doesn't it? And spare no one, right? And they struck out and they killed several people and they're intending to liberate themselves and do what? Go to Haiti. Kupete Bulika. Because Africans in Haiti they set the terms, the template for what the struggle of freedom should be, not only throughout the Americas, they influenced revolutionary movement all around the world, right there, this tiny island in Haiti. Courageous African people, etc. So I just want to say, I think we should understand this and we should read these like that and should read them also as a means by which we can interpret the world, what's happening in the world. We see things happening in the world today that we can reflect on when we get to these 14 points. And I want to thank Congressman Westbrook, who does such a splendid job in keeping us, abreast of these points and exciting us about the 14 points as well. Uhuru, comrade.
Please relay to Africa.
Uhuru. We have a dynamic rally today, so I want to go forward with the questions. I think and any discussion after that, if someone want to step to the mic. Uhuru. Who are political prisoners? And who are political prisoners? That's the question. Who are political prisoners? Is those, well, before I even go to the question, before I go to the questions, anybody got their own idea of who a political prisoner is? Come on now, everybody not at once.
I think it's an important question because the United States claims that there are no political prisoners in this country. That's what it claims. It demands that people all around the world who they don't like free their political prisoners. Most of the times, the people who the United States characterizes as political prisoners in other countries are people who have spoken out against injustices in those countries that's supported by the United States. So it said the United States says we don't have any political prisoners, no such thing. Everybody who's in jail or in prison in the United States, they're there for good reasons. They broke the law, they should be locked up. There are no political prisoners, no politics involved. So Comrade Westbrook is trying to get us to talk about this.
So I think a political prisoner, is all African people, particularly who are locked down. Every last one of them are political prisoners. Because I understand that how the jail systems were formed. Back in the day during slavery, you had the slave captain, and they would call overseers. And KRS-One reminds us, overseers, you say it enough time, it becomes the word officer. And so then they were capturing who? They weren't capturing the ruling class, so they were capturing the Africans. They were capturing our black class. So we understand that, that's what a political prisoner is in one regard, and that's how we look at it. If anybody disagrees, we can have a little discussion about that. Or if you want to go ahead and make it a little bit, deep and then further, we can do that too.
Uhuru. Next week. Okay. Well, who are political prisoners? A, is it those who's locked up for being a member of the Democratic Party? B, courageous Africans fighting for African liberation. C, those given early release. D, none of the above.
B.
Uhuru. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We're gonna meet you in the back. We're gonna talk about your gift. Uhuru. Uhuru.
And what does B? Okay, what is it?
The courageous Africans fighting for African liberations is real political prisoners. Uhuru. And since Donald Trump wanna free all of January 6th, he should follow suit and do what my man say, release every African prisoners out of all these concentration camps.
That's what they are. Yes.
Question number 2. What is the duty of the colonized African people? Of colonized African people, what is the duty? It is it A, number 1, to pledge allegiance to the American flag? Is it B, to go to church every Sunday? Is it C, is it to get a better job? Or is the duty of the colonized people is to resist colonialism and to fight for socialism? D. Uhuru. Both the Congress did it. And it's absolutely right. It's D. It is our job to resist colonialism and it's our job to fight for socialism. Uhuru. That will conclude today's 14-point platform. And Uhuru, bring back Congress.
One Africa, one nation. Uhuru, thank you, Comrade Westbrook, Comrade Chairman, and the 14-point platform. Next up, we have a cultural presentation from Comrade Gregory Reed. He's going to read us a parable today, and it centers around friendship.
Bygone brothers and sisters, comrades. Story about friendship. But first of all, how many of you have dogs at home or dog owners? Okay. How about cats? Who any cat owners there? Dog and cat? Yeah, well, not as many dog and cat owners, and there's a reason for that. See, long time ago, Brother Dog and Brother Cat were the best of friends. I mean, they used to do everything together. They would work together. They'd go out passing literature together. They'd work in the garden together. And when they got all done, one of the favorite things they liked to do was to go down to the Uhuru market and get them a great big piece of cheese. Oh, Brother Dog and Brother Cat love cheese. And one day they were coming back from one of the Unity rallies, and Brother Dog said, you know what, Brother Cat? I'm hungry. Why don't we put our money together and go and get us a big piece of cheese? And Brother Cat said, oh, yeah. And they reached in their pockets and they combined their money. They went to the market and they looked around and they looked at a big piece of cheese over there and a tender piece of cheese there and a juicy piece of cheese over there. And finally, they grabbed them a great big piece of cheese. They paid for it, of course. And Brother Dog said, you know what? I'm going to take the responsibility of carrying this cheese the first part of the way home. And Brother Dog, he took that cheese and he put it up on his shoulder and he sang a song. Our cheese, I'm carrying our cheese. We're going to have wonderful cheese. And Brother Dog looked over at Brother Cat and said, would you like to carry the cheese for a while? And Brother Cat said he did. And he put that cheese under his arm and he sang a song. My cheese, I'm carrying my cheese. I'm going to eat all the cheese. Now, Brother Dog was a little confused on that. And he said, Brother Cat, let me carry the cheese again. And he knew that before you criticize anyone, you want to make sure you had all the facts together. And he lifted that cheese up on his shoulder. Our cheese, I'm carrying our cheese. Our cheese. We're going to have wonderful cheese. We're nearly home, Brother Cat. Would you like to carry the cheese again? Brother Cat, he grabbed that cheese, put it up under his arm. He sang his song. My cheese, I'm carrying my cheese. I'm gonna eat all the cheese. Brother Cat, what are you singing? Said Brother Dog. Brother Cat was very disrespectful. He just ignored Brother Dog, and all of a sudden he ran to a tree and he climbed up the top of it. And he started eating up all the cheese. And Brother Dog, he ran to the bottom of the tree and he barked and he growled and snarled and jumped, but dogs can't climb trees. All he could do was watch Brother Cat eat up all the cheese. Brother Cat, why did you eat up that cheese? We put our money together. We took on collective responsibility and Ujima collective economics and you just ate up all the cheese. Well, said Brother Cat, I won and you lost. So ha 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 ha. And Brother Dogs just sadly looked up at Brother Cat. Said, no, Brother Cat, I merely lost a piece of cheese. You lost something more important.
Well.
You lost a friend. And from that day and this, cats and dogs have been a hard time doing friends. And you know, we really do need friends. And we've been fortunate. We've had friends here, such as Universal African Peoples Organization. We've had friends such as OBS. We've had friends such as SABE. And the White Solidarity Committee. And as we move forward, we know we're going to have to continue, friends. Now, America is giving us a real good example here. A friend of mine used to say, you could learn two ways, from a good example and bad example. And the U.S. is giving us a real fine example of bad behavior, destroying its friendships. And there's a lesson that we should learn there as we build ours coming. Chairman.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Comrade Gregory. Okay. I'm digging these parables every time I read them. Are you say them, man? They be on point. Yeah, they must be some African cats and dogs. They went to the Uhuru market, didn't they? Okay, then that's what's up. Okay. All right. Next up, Comrade, we're going to go further with the program. Once again, if you're just tuning in and just coming in to the Quabbin Hall, today's theme is Victory to the Uhuru 3, Down with Colonialism. And we're going to show a few minutes of some video clips, and it's going to highlight some of the activities of the Uhuru's 3 victory and try to get this, understanding of how we got to where we are. And after the clips, we'll come back and we'll have a little bit more deepening of that. And that will be also then followed by culture. So these clips, when we cue that up, they'll be very short clip. The first one is a 3-minute clip that we had been showing before. And then we'll have another clip from the victory procession from the courtroom in Tampa, Florida in December 2024.
This is the FBI. You have a federal warrant for this address. Keep your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant for this.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Quabbin Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
Yeah, breach, what do you mean? They won. I don't know. I told them that money. Don't take it.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands off the Uhuru movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Not one day. Not one day. All right. So basically, the two clips kind of shows you how we get here and how we got out of that. But we got some work to do, and the struggle isn't over yet. And so once again, today's theme is called Victory to the Uhuru 3, Down with Colonialism. And before we go a little bit further into the program, we're going to have one more piece of culture, and that's coming from Comrade 4 Feet, Flashbang. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Flashbang. July 29th, 2022. The FBI attacked me and you. The attack at the Uhuru movement is an attack on all African people. 5 a.m. the alarm rang. Flashbang, flashbang. Loudspeakers filled the air. A combat tank, battle-armed brigade at my door, rifles and red lights on our chests. The unison of 7 of our holdings were invaded. 40 years of historical files stolen and desecrated. Every cell phone, tablet, laptop, and database stolen. This attack was not charged. This attack would not change our directive to Africa and African people liberation in our lifetime. Its dedication, we are doing things right. It indicated that we're doing things right. Free speech is on trial. Fist up. Fist up. It's what we do. The Vanguard Party is on patrol for you. The Uhuru movement is our name. African liberation is our claim. All eyes are on our chairman O'Malley, founder and leader of the Uhuru movement for over 60 years. We want self-reliance and government, the ability to feed, clothe, and care for ourselves. This is why we were attacked. The song, Ain't No Stopping Us Now. We're on the move. The revolution must be led by the African working class. Chairman has guided us to this point to completing the African revolution set in motion by Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, and many others must be carried out. Our liberation is on track. This is why we were under attack. The state attacked African people every day, but this time they thought they started at the top. Their system is falling, just not fast enough. It took 15 votes to finally elect a 2023 House Speaker, and then they tore him down. And everybody that has sat in the White House has some top secret documents at their home. The Uhuru movement is challenging the dynamics of the ruling class. We have a theory, and we thank Chairman O'Malley for that. Our goal is freedom for all Africans at home and abroad. On July 29th, 2022, we were attacked. They jumped first. Now game's on. But I must say, hey, y'all, we won. Hands off Uhuru. Hands off Africa. Hands off Uhuru.
All right, thanks, Conrad Fofi. Appreciate that. And we're about to hear from our speakers today from the Uhuru 3. In the particular order, when we get to that point, we will hear from Chairwoman Penny Hess over the Uhuru African People's Solidarity Committee, Chairman Jesse Neville over Uhuru Solidarity Committee, and Chairman Omali Yeshitela over the whole kit and caboodles. So before we go further, though, we wanted to just try to get a little understanding and deepen this thing and kind of bring it all together. Because we know that imperialism, colonialism is always in crisis mode. And they somewhat like the dogs and the cats, somebody is against the wall, so to speak. And so this animal is against the wall and its back is against the wall and it's trying to fight and survive and to try to hang on to every nickel and dime that it can to hang on to. But it sees in the Uhuru movement and under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, the proclivity to work at the ground level where the masses of the people are, bring us up to where we ought to be and to take control of our own destiny. So for example, when the Uhuru movement came to St. Louis, purchased this building, bad condition, and you look at it now, it says Aquaba, which means welcome. So it's a beautiful, welcoming place. You also see that there were abandoned buildings next door, tore that down, made it into a beautiful outdoor venue, developed the African Independent Workforce Program, housing unit down the street, basketball court, building a women's clinic. And this is actually what they were attacking. They were attacking the work of the Uhuru movement. They were attacking African internationalism, but they ran into the right one at the wrong time, baby. And so what happened was, the colonizer, he said that, okay, we got to send a message that you cannot defend for yourself. You cannot organize for yourself. You cannot have anything for yourself because you have to depend on us. After all, we stole you from the continent of Africa. We stealing your resources and we're going to continue to do it. But you got the audacity and the nerve to have African internationalism and ideology. You got the nerve to have an agency. You got the nerve to have leadership. Hell no, we ain't trying to hear that. But once again, they ran into the wrong one at the right time. So we're going to hear from now the Uhuru 3 in the order mentioned, Penny Hess, Jesse Neville, and the keynote speaker will be Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and we will continue the program after that. Uhuru.
Well, my name is Penny Hess, and I am the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the organization of white people formed by and under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the African People's Socialist Party, with the mandate to go into the white community to organize other white people just like ourselves to stand for reparations to African people, to recognize that this system that we live in is built on the kidnapping, on the assault on Africa, the kidnapping of African people, and the enslavement and colonization of African people on the stolen land of the indigenous people right here in what is called the United States, which is the stolen land of the indigenous people. So I want to salute my leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who fought like hell and very brilliantly against this attack on the state, by the state, on the Uhuru movement that, as we saw, began in some ways, although it began in many ways, but it began in the most, I guess, apparent way for the Uhuru 3. On July 29th, 2022, when 7 properties of the Uhuru movement in St. Louis and in St. Petersburg, Florida, were raided by scores and scores of FBI agents, armed FBI agents and other military forces, police forces, who came in to, including our 3 homes where we were. This was at 5 a.m. and stormed in, broke down our doors, came in with assault weapons, and started, brought us out, put us in handcuffs, but we were not arrested, which is when we ask, are we under arrest? They said, oh, no, you're not under arrest. But they held us at gunpoint, I know, at my house in the living room for hours as they went through and took all of our computers, our cell phones, our electronics, and files, and just went through everything in our house for about 7 hours, I believe, till almost noon. This happened at 5 a.m. So this was the beginning of the attack, of this part of the attack. There are other things, and I know that the burning of a flag in St. Petersburg, Florida, by somebody who drove up in front of the Uhuru House in St. Petersburg with a professional kind of flamethrower and set the flag on fire. Just there were many other things, but this was the sort of the main blow of the beginning of the attack on the Uhuru 3. So following that, it was almost a year until we were indicted. It was almost a year later. We were then indicted around, I think, April and May of the next year, 2023. And then in just this past year, in 2024, December, I think, when did it start?
September.
Well, yeah, September. And then we had to go to trial in St. Petersburg, Florida. We were charged with being Russian agents and conspiring to be Russian agents. So when we went to trial, it was, and just to say, the Hands Off Uhuru movement was built. We had over 200 organizations that stood with us. We had hundreds of people who came to St. Petersburg for the trial. It was a really powerful outpouring of support for the Uhuru 3 and Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And we went to trial. We were acquitted of being Russian agents, but we were convicted of conspiring to be Russian agents, which is, as the chairman says, absolutely ridiculous. How can you be convicted of something that was proven didn't happen. So anyway, I mean, it is very, it's clearly a political attack. And I think that number 7 that we, went over today in the, anyway, I think that is a very important thing to study. And I also, I just want to say that I salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who avoided much of the terror, because the chairman has been leading the struggle for African liberation since the mid 1960s. But the chairman avoided much of the terror that the US government was inflicting on African organizations in the 1960s and 70s due to his brilliance, his clarity, his grounding in the African masses, and this understanding of the science of how the world got the way it is, what the chairman calls African internationalism, and understands that the anti-colonial struggle of African people is the driving force of history in unity with other oppressed and colonized peoples, which is something that makes total sense when we look at the world that way. And that the formation by the chairman way back in 1976 of the African People's Solidarity Committee was the first time that white people have been put under the strategic leadership of the African Revolution as a tool to forward the African Revolution behind enemy lines by sending white people back into the white community to organize others just like ourselves to say, if we hate Trump, if we hate the system, if we hate injustice, the only thing that will change it is the struggle of African people in unity with all colonized people to end this system. Because it's been proven over and over again historically that white people can be organized to have huge demonstrations, but to what end? White people sit on the pedestal of the oppression of everyone else, of Africans, indigenous, and the Palestinians, and the oppressed and colonized people. And that is what is changing the world. And we know from the organizing that we do, that there are thousands of other white people who want to be part of this, who are looking for how to take this stand, and they can find it under the leadership of the African Revolution, because white people are not going to solve the problems that we created. So it's very exciting. And to say that the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, I'm sure Comrade Jesse's going to talk about it, is having its national convention or conference next weekend, which will be here. And that's going to be very exciting because it is white people coming who want to take this stand. Yeah. So the chairman, all throughout the 60s, as we saw the assassinations of Malcolm X, of Fred Hampton, and Bobby Hutton, and yes, and so many more, and the imprisonment of Sundiata Acoli, Assata Shakur, people that were in prison for 50 years, Leonard Peltier from the indigenous movement. Yet the chairman was able to fight this understanding that he has defined as the counterinsurgency, the attack on African people struggling for their freedom, and had the ability through organization and political grounding in African internationalism to be able to take that on and continue to struggle all of these years and build a powerful, powerful solidarity movement. So on December 12th of this year, actually of 2024, the Uhuru 3 won a profound political victory for African people, for all oppressed and freedom-loving peoples here and around the world, against the serious attacks by the US government. And we were acquitted of, as I said, of being Russian agents, but we were falsely convicted of, quote, conspiring to be Russian agents, which is I mean, it's so absurd that it's almost laughable. Like, it makes you want to laugh. Like, how could the chairman be a Russian agent? And as the chairman has said, we weren't attacked because they thought we were Russian agents. They knew that the chairman was leading a struggle in the name of African people for national liberation and against what the chairman has called the colonial mode of production. So we received no prison time, as has been said. We were required to pay no fines, and we could have been sent to prison for, I think, at the beginning, up to 15 years in prison for something that is absolutely untrue and false. And we also could have been subjected to up to $250,000 each in fines, but we got none of that. But we did receive 300 hours each of community service. And during the sentencing hearing, which was in December, the judge admitted that everything alleged in the indictment of the Uhuru Three amounted to, quote, legal and protected speech. This was all about speech. This was something that could have sent Chairman Omali Yeshitela to prison for 15 years for speaking. There was no fraud, no drugs, no violence, no murder. You know, this was on his words. And this is why it is so serious and so important. So the victory that was won was a political victory. The US government's objective was to put us in prison for up to 15 years. They wanted to continue the isolation of the African liberation movement, but we forced the justness and reality of the African liberation movement onto the world agenda. The chairman brought about a victory for, as he has termed it, anti-colonial free speech, not the right of free speech for white people, which is based on the Constitution, free speech to oppress other people, but the free speech that African people are fighting for, which is to end a system of the oppressors and the oppressed. And everybody, including white people, can and must stand in solidarity with that. They wanted to silence the voice of the African liberation movement. They wanted to criminalize the stand of white solidarity and unity with reparations, but they were not able to do that. And under Chairman Omali Yeshitela's leadership, we built a larger and broader movement than ever before. More than just a threat to free speech, the Uhuru Three case was a major assault on the African liberation movement, a movement that has come under attack for centuries, from Marcus Garvey in the 1920s to Malcolm X in the 1960s, to the assassinations of African leaders, the imprisonment of hundreds of members of the Black Panther Party. The US government has waged political, military, and counterintelligence attacks on African people whenever they have organized to fight for their self-determination. They listed overt acts, which are supposedly the criminal acts in our indictment. Every single thing that was listed were speaking events, were tours around the US, tours to, they cited, this is what we did. Yes, this is what we did. This is what the Uhuru movement does. This is what the chairman does. So, yeah, so I just want to say, let me just conclude, because this is a very powerful struggle. It's still going on. As Chairman Omali Yeshitela has summed up, the only reason we didn't get prison time is because we fought back against this government attack. We fought. The jury affirmed that we work, as the chairman said, for Black people, not Russia. The Bill of Rights and the First Amendment were not written by or for Black people. African people were enslaved when that was written. The statement that free speech is a truth that is self-evident is something that white society stated. And the chairman is calling on white people to hold to that statement. So we are winning. This has been a powerful struggle. It's not over, but it has redefined what it means to be progressive. If you are a white person and you say that you're progressive, where do you stand in terms of the African liberation movement? Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru Three. That is the defining question today. And it's my honor to be on the winning side. Uhuru, we are winning. Vanguard up.
Unity through. Unity through. Uhuru. Want to give another round of applause for that presentation by Chairwoman Penny Hess. Just really appreciate that very powerful and very comprehensive summary of the incredible fight back that has been led by Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru movement. And it's an honor to be here at the Uhuru House at Aquaba Hall for the Sunday rally. I want to appreciate the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. And I am a proud member of the African People's Solidarity Committee. And so all of the words that Chairwoman Penny just speak for me and all of the members of APSC who are here 100%. And I also have the honor to be the chair of our mass organization, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, which, as was mentioned, we'll be holding our national convention next weekend right here in Aquaba Hall on Saturday and Sunday, starting at 9 a.m. on both days. And I just want to salute the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, as well as Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela in particular, and talk briefly about what was going on in July of 2022 before the US government made this violent military assault with the FBI raids on the Uhuru movement. In the month of July of 2022, the chairman was leading a process, an organizing intensive to have comrades out knocking on doors all throughout the North Side to build for the pre-conference of the Black Community Convention that was scheduled to be held on July 31st. So 2 days after when the raids ended up happening. And that was an incredibly powerful organizing campaign that the chairman was leading at that time. And at the same time, Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela was coordinating a process to hold a training of African women to become doulas and birth workers to address the genocidal colonial conditions of infant and maternal mortality. And that doula training was scheduled to happen on the morning of July 29th of 2022. And I can't think of any greater example that shows the relentlessness of the African People's Socialist Party that on July 29th, despite facing FBI agents coming to their home at 5 o'clock in the morning, Deputy Chair still held the training of doulas here in the Uhuru House on that morning. And on July 31st, Chairman Omali Yeshitela still held the pre-conference of the Black Community Convention. The other thing that happened on July 29th that we saw in that video is that in St. Petersburg, Florida, where they raided the Uhuru House and also raided Director Akile and I, there was a press conference held at the St. Petersburg police station where comrades like Director Akile, Janice Kant, and Jamie Simpson and others went to the St. Petersburg police station to enter into that press conference, and they were not allowed in. So they had to listen through the door to what was being said in that press conference. And at that press conference, which is on YouTube, and you should look at it was an FBI press conference. You should look at the comments because all the comments are people saying, they're lying. The FBI is doing this again. What crap. And speaking at the press conference was somebody from the FBI and then the chief of police, Anthony Holloway of St. Petersburg, Florida, and Roger Hanberg, the U.S. attorney for the Middle District of Florida, who oversaw the prosecution of the Uhuru Three. And right outside the St. Petersburg police station, Director Akile was also speaking to the media. That's the clip you see in that video, the powerful, electrifying statement that Director Akile made about why this attack was happening. And the media, the hostile colonial bourgeois media, including the Tampa Bay Times, was in full attack mode, but they were going up against Director Akile and I, so it was not a good day for them. And they were asking things like, were you working for the Russians? Did you take money from the Russians and things like that? And she was saying, well, as African people, we have a right to be friends with anybody we want
that will support our struggle against colonialism. They said, well, do you think you should have registered as foreign agents? She said, why would we register foreign agents of what? We're colonized subjects in an illegitimate settler colony in this country. You're telling us we have to register with who? And so this is going on the outside. Director Akile was named an unindicted co-conspirator in the original the original indictment and the second indictment of the Uhuru Three. And ultimately, they did not indict. They could not indict Director Akile. That was the first instance where we started to see the case, the bogus case of the U.S. government falling apart before they even got to trial. And so Director Akile was not indicted, but the guy on the inside of that press conference, Roger Handberg, I am happy to say is now out of a job. So the twin fates of the tale of two press conferences happening that morning. So I also was just reflecting on the fact that so these raids happened, and the chairman always talks about how the federal government has a 98% conviction rate because most people plead guilty. They terrify people into pleading guilty with the threat of decades and decades of time in prison unless you take some kind of plea bargain. And they wanted the chairman and the Uhuru Three to do that. In fact, in that 9 months before they finally indicted the chairman and the Uhuru Three, we were able to secure lawyers who were trained brilliantly by Chairman Amalia Shatella to understand that this was a political trial and that the law is just an instrument, a mechanism, a weapon through which the US government was waging a political attack. These lawyers contacted the federal government and said that these people have lawyers now. So if you indict them, let us know, and they'll come to Florida for the arraignment. You don't have to raid their buildings again and knock down their doors again. And the prosecutor's response was, well, yeah, we can make that promise that we won't raid them if they just come in and plead guilty. That otherwise, it's out of our hands. So they were continuing to threaten even another raid as an attempt to get some kind of plea deal. But the chairman was firm. There wasn't going to be any plea deal here. And in fact, one of our attorneys, Leonard Goodman, said that to take a plea deal would mean to commit perjury, because we would be lying if we were to say that Chairman Amalia Shatella, who's been fighting for the liberation of African people the majority of his life since the 1960s, was somehow a puppet of Vladimir Putin and the Russian government. That would be a lie. So it would be perjury. So finally, in April of 2023, this indictment comes down, and the chairman and Chairwoman Penny and myself were indicted, as Chairwoman Penny talked about, of 2 federal felonies. Okay, this was not like, oh, you did something, you got to pay a fine, or you're going to take you to civil court. The goal was 15 years in prison for each of the Uhuru Three, and at the time, $500,000 in fines. Each charge carried a $250,000 fine. But the chairman always said that the goal was much bigger than that. The goal was not simply to put the chairman and the Uhuru Three in prison. The goal was to delegitimize and discredit the African liberation movement by putting forward this offensive, slanderous narrative that when African people criticize what this government does to African people every single day, the police murder, the mass imprisonment, the gentrification, the infant and maternal mortality, all of it, that it's somehow the Russians that are actually behind the scenes pulling the strings. They even wanted people to believe that creating an Uhuru bakery and cafe in North St. Louis in a food desert was the product of work by the Russians, as opposed to African people themselves fighting for the power to have food, clothes, and shelter in their own hands. And when we went, so the chairman struggled and won the attorneys to understand this was a political trial, and that the goal was to put the state on trial, not to be in a defensive posture, but to launch a political and legal counteroffensive. So we went to trial, we took them to trial in September of 2024, and the trial was absolutely incredible. The US government produced 0 actual witnesses, okay? After spending years on this investigation, after attempting to recruit ex-party members to testify against the chairman, after spending millions of dollars with hundreds of FBI agents. Think about the money that was spent on July 29th alone to carry out those raids. After all of this, stealing, I think it was 12 terabytes or more than that, 20 terabytes of data, the equivalent of 2.5 million books worth of so-called evidence. The US government produced 0 actual witnesses. Instead, they called to the stand 12 FBI agents and 2 so-called expert witnesses who were academic hacks who had nothing to offer, and in fact ended up helping our case because of how poorly they conducted themselves under under cross-examination by our attorneys. So just to wrap this up, the Uhuru 3, on the other hand, our attorneys presented evidence of more than 50 years of struggle by Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the African People's Socialist Party. The 14-point platform that we just studied was entered into evidence in the trial. The 1977 Tactics and Strategy document created by the chairman that laid out the entire strategy for rebuilding the African Revolution was presented as evidence in the trial by our attorneys. Several issues of the Burning Spear newspaper going back decades were presented as evidence. Video footage of Chairman Omali Yeshitela in Russia being interviewed by a Russian organizer about why he was in Russia, that he was in Russia to win solidarity with the struggle of African people against colonialism and for national liberation, was presented to that jury. And the FBI agents that testified were absolutely demolished under cross-examination, forced to admit under oath that they had found no evidence that the chairman had ever worked under the direction or control of any Russian or of any person, that they had found no evidence that the Uhuru movement had engaged in anything even remotely approximating so-called election interference, even though they knowingly lied to the public by putting that in a DOJ press release and in the indictment. And on it went. And so on September 12th, the jury's verdict came back, and we, as Chairwoman Penny said, we were found not guilty of the main charge of being Russian agents, which, as the chairman said that day, meant that the US government was unable to prove that the Uhuru movement works for anybody except for African people. But we were convicted of the conspiracy charge, and I just want to close by talking about the appeal that is coming up, because this conspiracy charge, we had the incredible victory as a result of the power of the people and the African working class on December 16th, that the chairman and the Uhuru 3 were not given any prison time or any fine. But this conspiracy conviction is still something that must be struggled against and must be overturned. And that is something that is being taken on in the courts through the appeal, and is something that will continue to be taken on in the streets through the Hands Off Uhuru anti-colonial free speech movement. And the appeal, I appreciate the presentation that the chairman gave earlier, because winning the appeal and getting this conviction overturned is not based on an assumption that the colonial legal system is somehow legitimate. It's based on the understanding that the chairman has always had, that in the fight for the liberation of African people, that all of the democratic space has to be opened up and has to be defended and has to be protected. Democratic space that African people have historically fought and died for. And to have any kind of conspiracy conviction in this case is a threat to the First Amendment and to freedom of speech and to the right of African and colonized people to exercise freedom of speech, to organize and advocate for their liberation. And for this trial to have even occurred at all needs to be recognized as something that was unconstitutional and that has to be overturned through this appeal process. So I'll just close by saying that the chairman's statement that he said earlier, that law is the opinion of the ruling class, and what the chairman said that day on the steps of the courthouse, not yet Uhuru, that this is not over until African people are free, and law is the opinion of the African working class who become the ruling class. So the struggle continues, and it's an honor to be under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, and just want to say unity through reparations.
Uhuru. I'd like to express my appreciation to everyone who is here, particularly the NPDEM, International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, who provides this space, not just to us, but to this community, to enter into these very important discussions that we don't commonly have in our communities. They're often just superficial discussions where we quote this politician or that politician, or something else that's insipid and that has no relationship to our conditions of existence. And that's what we're trying to talk about. I want to say that there are a lot of people who talk, but the United States government does not attack them. And the reason the United States government attacks us and did attack us is the same reason they attacked Garvey, and that they attacked other revolutionary forces, the Black Panther Party, our organization going all the way back to the 1960s and 70s and what have you. They attacked us because the struggle had achieved of our people. And I want to say the struggle of our people. If we say that African people are oppressed, and I think that most of us can unite with that, and perhaps most of the people in this country can unite with the fact that Africans are oppressed. If we are oppressed, it means then that we have to have an oppressor. If there are oppressed people, if there's an oppressed group, there must be an oppressor. And what has happened in the past is how we have understood this is based on how the white ruling class, colonizers all, have defined the relationship between the people. They come to this land. Here you have foreign interlopers who are starving in Europe, literally starving in Europe, who come to this place that they have named America. America is not a name of any indigenous people who lived here before the white man got here. America is a name of a white man who was imposed on this land after they stole it, because they do the same thing that thieves do all the time. A thief that steals something that's got a name on it, it scratches the name off. And to make sure that people continue to be confused about who owns it, they scratch the name off and they put their own names on it. America is a recent phenomenon in history. It just got here. Yeah. It hasn't even been here long. You look at the history of Africa, even the history of Europe and the white people. You look at the history of Africa, the existence of America is like the blink of an eye in terms of our history that has been smothered, that has been kept away from our understanding. I'm not talking about history so you can know who made peanut butter, because it really doesn't matter, as we said before, because we might have made peanut butter, but Jiffy owns it. I'm talking about this because if a people is unaware of what it has accomplished, then it has no confidence in its ability to accomplish anything. If you know what we have accomplished, then you know what we can accomplish. And the fact is that African people were building pyramids in Africa. They still don't know how it happened, even before white man mastered fire. That's the truth. Before they understood, they had to travel everywhere and hope lightning struck someplace that would light a fire. Then they tried to nurse that fire because they did not. This is the state of the relationship that they have with nature and with development. So the thing is that African people, I'm only mentioning this because this attack on our history is an assault on our confidence. It's used to slander us every day. So why you need a Black History Month? You can do it in just no time because they feel like they've succeeded in erasing our history. And they have done it to a certain extent in terms of our own consciousness, our memory of that. That's like creating amnesia in a people. If you can erase their history, they don't have an understanding where they came from. And if there is an inkling of where they came from, then what our oppressors will do is make that place that we came from so horrible in our own imagination that we'd rather be here catching hell in this country than to be wherever it is that we came from. That's where they get Tarzan from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about when I talk about Tarzan, right?
Yeah.
Some of you are old enough to remember Tarzan. And this story of a white baby after a shipwreck, comes up, a plane crash. A white baby washes ashore in Africa. And this baby is rescued by apes, big monkeys.
Mhm.
And this baby grows up to take over all of Africa, takes over the animals, and etc. What an extraordinary person this is. The baby learns how to talk to the animals and everything, and takes over the animals and takes over the black people. And it doesn't just say you have this person was trained by apes, by big monkeys. So the thing is that it's not just that the white man is smarter and more developed than the African people. The monkeys are too.
Yeah.
Because the monkeys are the one who taught the white man how to understand the world. This is the kind of slander that we have had to endure and live with. And we've gone to movies and seen this kind of stuff that's describing us in these horrible ways. So we have to recapture our own confidence in ourselves as a people. And the reason they would attack us is not because they thought we were working for Russia, but they knew we were working for our Africa and our liberation. That is why they would attack us. And they would attack us because they know our goal is to be self-governing. That everything that you see us working with here concretely, done by human beings. Was no Jesus, was no God, I'm sorry. For those of you who need this, people did this. Human beings. Excuse me. A project led by a member of our party, a leader of our party, Carmen Onazine Shatella, this Black Power blueprint. Look at what is happening here. It is a part of our intent to be self-governing. This is a part of the process to take care of ourselves. And you never have had such an understanding or such a recognition that we have to be able to take care of ourselves than at this moment in history, where everything that you've relied on, everything that Black so-called leaders have told us to rely on, everything has collapsed right in front of our face, and they have opposed what we are doing, even from right here. The government, local government, has worked against our accomplishing economic development for our people, our own power. And they would have us rely on the Democratic Party. They would have us rely on simply the electoral process alone, and see what that has led to. Now, you have all of those Negroes scared to death because of the election of Donald J. Trump. They're scared to death. What are they going to do? And many of our people who have followed them blindly are frightened because they have been led to the conclusion that we can't take care of ourselves. How in the hell can people believe we can't take care of ourselves? How long? How long have we taken care of the white man? We are the ones who took care of them on this stolen land of the indigenous people. It was Black labor. As we took care of their children. We grew their food. We built their homes and houses, etc. And they stole our science. They didn't just come to steal human beings for labor. They stole our technology, rice farming, so much of the other kinds of things that you see here. Africans did that. And they stole us to bring us here. They went to certain places on the continent of Africa because they knew we had that technology. They stole the technology of the indigenous people here too, etc. They didn't know anything about growing anything in this country. The indigenous people knew they were starving to death. There were instances where they would actually, after getting here, would dig up the graves of the indigenous people and eat of what it was in those graves when they were starving. Of course, they didn't know how to do it, but the indigenous people knew how to do it.
Yeah.
And then they would convince people around the world that they were looking at just savages. They have to say and create this notion of the people they oppress. They would even express their oppression of the people as doing them a favor. They even came up with the logic that and wrote poems and created poets and historians, if you would, historians that people study today that explain this relationship. They talk about it like the white man's burden. Who was the man came up with that? The poet. Say it again. Rudyard Kipling was a colonizer from England. He's the one who came up with the term the white man's burden. That this is stuff we do all around the world. We go to these places not because we want to do it, but because we've got this surplus of civilization and Christianity. It's our responsibility as white people to go around the world and dominate the world. That was the logic that was there, continues to be there. You see it even now when they're talking about taking Palestine. Yeah. We know how to do it. So this is the kind of stuff that we live with. I'm mentioning all of this to you because I want us to be aware. We plan to govern. If you ain't talking about power, you're not even involved in a quality discussion. If you're not talking about being able to feed, clothe, and house yourself, then you are talking about continuing to be a servant. And I wanted to say that, and I know that there are people who come to our meetings, and I appreciate that too, who have different views of the world and how it operates. And we plan to unite with many of those people. We're building for right here in St. Louis, a Black community convention where we can get African people who are from different organizations and even different belief systems, excuse me. Been struggling with this for a while. So we want to bring the community together. Develop our own agenda. Not a Democratic Party agenda, not a Republican Party agenda, but a Black community agenda. Not an agenda that can only function within certain wards. We don't give a damn about the borders of the wards. What we care about is our people. And don't tell us that we can't do something to work to change our conditions because we're not in this ward or that ward. We got to tear anything that separates us from advancing our interests as a people has to be wiped out. So we're moving toward the Black Community Convention. And that's looking at July 12th and 13th. And I see the hands of people who are interested, you think, in developing this Black Community Convention to unite our community around our own agenda. Splendid. So anyway, that's what it is we're about. I wanted to just say that while, and you know that's what we're about, and you know that's why the government attacked us. Because even the sentence, the conviction, doesn't make any sense at all. They say we are not guilty of committing a crime, but we are guilty of doing something that we didn't do. Right. It's a ridiculous kind of thing. They plan, again, to put us in prison for 15 years each, $250,000 fines each. And they were unable to do that because of your participation, the participation of people all around the world who stood up for us. But the thing that's helpful, if that was the only thing that they were concerned about, some assumption that we were somehow Russian agents. And why did they burn the church across the street on Redbud that we had purchased to put more programs like what we see happening here? Why did they burn that church down? Why did they come to St. Petersburg, Florida, and burn the red, black, and green flag, like the one you see out there on a 50-foot flagpole, the one in St. Petersburg, Florida? They with a military grade flamethrower that somebody just happened to have in the trunk of the car. It's pull up and open the trunk of the car and come use a flamethrower to burn that flag. If they thought that we were Russian agents, what does that have to do with getting the banks some of whom we've been working with for 20 years? We don't miss payments. Yeah. We don't miss payments. We make payments before time. And why did they get the banks? And even with the banks board, have FBI agent on the board. And they shut down our accounts and said that we had to pay off a mortgage of $70,000 to $80,000 in 2 weeks. This is what we were looking at. And I'm going to say that this is an issue that's been in our community since we've been here. This whole concept of integrationists and assimilationists versus those of us who demand the right and fight for the right to be self-determining, to be in charge of our own affairs, to know that our children will have a future, not because some good white person said that we could have a future, but because we created it ourselves. And so that's part of what was under attack. You know, there's a thing that they call insurgency. And insurgency is a movement by oppressed people to take back their freedom from the oppressor. That's called insurgency. And somebody who is involved in that is characterized as an insurgent. That's an insurgent. They're involved in insurgency. And this is something that the white man has been fighting these insurgencies since the inception of Europe and the colonial forces that has dominated the world, and through enslaving the rest of us. They become expert at developing what they call counterinsurgent programs. These are programs to counter the ability of the oppressed to take back our freedom. And counterinsurgency, it utilizes every method of warfare that you can think of. It uses economic warfare. It uses psychological warfare. In the final analysis, based on military warfare. But that's what counterinsurgency does. It creates lies. It creates all kinds of confusion in communities. It puts people in your own community. It corrupts your preachers and people who you respect, and et cetera. It does all of that stuff and put it in your community. And that's why you can have leaders. People are supposed to be leaders in your community. How long? In a matter of just a few years, look at what we've done right here in West Florissant. But we've had so-called leaders talking about generation dynasties of Negro who's supposed to be leaders. Their mamas, their grandparents, et cetera, were people who were elected to office, and they haven't done a damn thing for African people. Nothing. And people even say, people come up to us and say, you just got here, look at what you've done. I've been here 40 years, now I haven't seen a single Negro leader do anything like this. Because they're not our leaders. Right. They look like us. Sometimes they eat the same food. Yeah. They know the same dances. Sometimes they go to the same church and clubs that you go to, etc. But they don't work for us. And sometimes they even participate and clown, like when this amazing rebellion started on Canfield Drive. These courageous African men and women who stood up after they murdered that boy and left him in 100+ degree weather in August on that pavement for 4.5 hours. Yeah. That community rose up. Yeah. And then you had these creeps who act like they were a part of that movement. Some of them didn't really act like it. Some of them made a career by standing in the middle. They ain't nobody's side. Yeah. They want to keep standing between the police and the people who are fighting for freedom. And some of them got reputations like that. They've done nothing for our people. So anyway, this is why they attacked us. They attacked you. Yeah. They attacked the Black Liberation Movement. That's what they attacked. The Uhuru 3 is an assault on Black people. The African Liberation Movement. It's an assault on the fact that we've come up with a strategy to say that we should never be isolated again in our movement here. That's why we built in part of the Solidarity Movement. This is the first time you've ever seen When they killed Malcolm X, they just killed Malcolm. When they killed Fred Hampton, they just killed Fred and the African who was in the house with him on December 4th, 1969. But this is the first time when they attacked our community that they had to go to the white community too.
Yes.
And that's critical, that's of critical significance.
Yes.
In the isolation. They charged me with having gone to Russia. Yes, I went to Russia twice. Was trying to go a third time, but COVID kept me from going there the third time. Why was I going to Russia? The same reason I created the Solidarity Movement. Yeah. To win as much support for Black struggle here as we can win. I was in Spain in 2007. Spoke to an international conference there. I was in Ireland in 1982 and 83. I was all over Europe in the 1980s and doing the same thing. Yeah. Building our movement. I was in Suriname in South America. Throughout the Caribbean and what have you. Struggling to win support for our struggle here. That's who I am. Yeah. That's what this movement is. And that was the strategic basis for us doing that. And finally, I want to say this. Another thing that we've been fighting against is superstition in our own movement, own communities. It takes science to make this revolution. We have to have science. Yes. We got too much work to do as African people. We got to build infrastructure here and around the world. We got to build economies. We got to do all kinds of work, being able to take care of ourselves. You're not going to be able to do that with juju, chicken bones. How they look. It's going to take science. And that's what it is that we engage in science, a scientific explanation of the reality that we are confronted with on a regular basis. Science, not just good feelings. Science. And so, and this whole question, again, of white people, we are materialists. And which means that our understanding of the world is based on an examination of the world itself. If we want to know about the world, we investigate the world. Yeah. Some people are confused around that question and want to know about the world and read the Bible. You can learn a lot about the Bible if you read the Bible. You can learn a lot about what's in the Bible if you read the Bible. But if you want to understand the world, then you investigate the world. And that's the thing that we have been involved in, and we call our people to be involved in the investigation of the world. And that's the critical thing. And white people are people. And it's really important for us to understand this. It's been hard to get to that because white people have not acted like people as we understand, as most of the people around the world understand that question. Ain't that right? Yes. The horrors that have been inflicted on peoples of the world. I mean, not just the torture, not just the thing they've done to the indigenous people here, like cutting the bellies open from pregnant women. They did this to Black people too. Yeah. And using them for bayonet practice. Not just that, not just coming here to this country with dogs that this land, I should say, with dogs that they train to eviscerate, to get good and take the intestines out of people. Not just because of stuff like that, which is horrible enough. Not just the fact that when they got here and there were no horses here, so they would jump on the back of an indigenous person, a so-called Indian, to ride that person wherever they wanted to go. But these are the forces that dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Mm. It killed, hundreds of, more than 100,000 civilian people. Yeah. And who kill us on a regular basis without the utilization of nuclear weapons on a regular basis. These are the people who kill maybe 12, 13 million Black people in Congo alone. Yeah. This is what we are talking about. And so people have come to conclude in many instances that those are not people. They're mutants. Hmm. They're the devil, etc. And if you're religious, it makes sense to say they're the devil. If you're religious, but we say that they are people. And there's no mystery. We want to take the mystery out of white people. They're people. Because if you hung up on this thing about them being the devil, what you gonna do? Get some holy water, arm yourself with priests and things like that. When did you ever see a priest do anything good for the people? If they're so-called mutants, what, you gonna get an organization of geneticists? No. The Vietnamese showed us how. Yeah. And other people who fought and struggled have shown us the way. So we're looking for science, and white people are people too. And in many instances, the struggle that we're involved in, which will deprive them of the ability to live off the backs of everybody else in the world, is a favor for them as well. They need to learn how to take care of themselves. Yes. Play your own basketball if you want to have it. Do your own dances if you want to have them. Do you cook your own foods and use your own recipes if you feel like you need to do that. But you can't rely on us to continue to die and kill for you. This is something that, and we will help them. We're doing white people a favor by releasing them from this horrible relationship that they have with the rest of humanity. Uhuru.
All right, great presentations. Great presentation from our comrades of the Uhuru 3. Next, we're going to move into call for membership and resources from Comrade Fofi. She's 3'6".
So we on 411. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here and sharing this experience, because in no other time in history would you be able to live through this historical event and be able to tell about it. And I want to say thank you again, because people have called me and say, wow, y'all busy. I said, get with us and we'll all be busy. Let's do that. Okay, our goal today is $150. That's our goal. And people online, we expect you too to get into this, because you would be watching something else rather than expanding your life and your work and the opportunity to become a part of this movement, because ain't no stopping us now. And Uncle Sam found out. Okay. Yes, we're on the move. And like I said, our goal today starting out is $150. Where does that money goes? Right where you're sitting. The warmth, the cool, the lights, the beautiful windows, the renovation, the money, the pamphlets that you get, the sound that we have, and the internet. You know how they're doing. Everything is costing us more dollars in our homes, in the places that we visit. Some of the places are closing down early because the electricity bill is too high. Okay, but we're not going to do that, because we're going to keep this moving and keep this moving. Now, if you want to be a part of this move, we had an opportunity for you there too. Everybody can have a question and an answer in the neighborhood that you live in the family that you are born into or you're raising. If there's a question in your neighborhood or family or wherever you have the question that is a social problem for you, you can find the answer here. Because where you put your money is where you believe it. Social, where you put your money is a political question. That's what I'm trying to say. If you spend your money here, this is where you serve. If you spend your money across town, that's where you serve. And if you put your money somewhere other than where we are, then you are serving somewhere that we are not. Okay? if you want, if any, we're gonna talk about membership. But first, before we go to membership, I want to say that we also cover our organization and our brothers and sisters in Africa. I can't see.
No, this is, I'm just putting it down.
I'm about to say, I ain't got my glasses.
Yeah.
But in Africa, we are a organization that is international. And that's, like Chairman said, the islands in Africa, in we don't have anything in Canada, do we?
Yeah.
Not, see there? In Canada, in England. Oh, yeah. So let me tell you, these resources are stipend to Africa. We're helping them to build, we're helping them to unite, and we're helping them to grow for their own independence, because that's what we're about. We don't work for Russia. Who do we work for?
African people.
Yes, Black people, not just here in the so-called United States, but around the world. Do membership or do Africa?
Africa.
Let's show some stuff from Africa, and I'm gonna bring my comrade up here.
It's cool.
Kumba, to help me to expound on that. And what we'll do is, we're gonna have a special offering, not this time, but next in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have a special offering just for Africa in the future. Y'all hear me out there? But then it don't hurt to add a little bit now, because this go there also.
Yeah.
Okay, Comrade Kumba.
Okay. So yeah, we are raising resources for the continent of Africa and our brothers and sisters, and it's the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement that's there, and we know how the struggle is on the ground, and we know how the colonizer has went to move us around and put us on barren land. So there are several branches in occupied Azania. This one just happens to be the Cozy branch in Azania, occupied Azania. And they have the Into You, which is a volunteer night. And some of the things that they have done and they are doing there on the ground, and change the slide, is with the soil, with the land. They're taking the so-called barren land and transforming it into fertile soil. So on one hand of the slide, as we show, we see where the road, it looks basically just like a dirt road. But with the cultivation of the land, you look at it on the left, you can see the lushness of it. You can see the vegetation growing up in there. And this is being done by the hands of the African working class on the ground, on the continent of Africa, each and every day. Next slide. And they also, you don't see this slide, but they also do it with children. There is a community garden that is being participated in with children. And once again, you see the fertility of the land. It was considered barren. The colonizer just basically threw that to you. Say, here, this is what's left over from us colonizing the land. So we're going to give you a little bit. But all of the continent of Africa is fertile. You can find everything that you need in the world on the continent of Africa. And you can grow just about anything on the continent of Africa. And I think I said last week when I talked about that particular stalk of corn, generally stalks of corn, they grow with one ear. This one produces 3 right off the bat. And it doesn't even look to be fully grown. It could probably grow another 3 feet. So Uhuru, pass the next slide. So these are what the resources go to do on the continent of Africa. It's real work in a real way. Transforming the land from a barren, desolate look land to something that is fertile and beautiful. And talk about the bread, peace, and Black power, and meeting the Africans where they are. This is at least the bread part of it, which translates into peace, which equals Black power. Okay, Uhuru, that's all today.
Uhuru.
And that was under the Project Thutukani, if I didn't say that. That's Project Thutukani, which is a nonprofit institution on the ground.
All right. Now, if you want to become a member of the International People Democratic Uhuru movement and have a word in how we get your opinions, get your ideas, learn how to be political, because what we do is we enter you into a political life at whatever level you are. You can be the CEO of your own company, or you can be the maintenance person of that same company, or the panhandler outside. Either way it go, we all owe it to ourselves to be involved in what's happening and not have our hands up and say, I don't know. You do know, and let's make it happen. You can become a member at the George Jackson Desi Woods level, which is membership of $5 a year for incarcerated members. If you have incarcerated relatives or neighbors or anybody that you know that is incarcerated, you can help make them a member for $5 a year. This way to prepare them when they get ready to come out into the free world, to know what's happening, and they know when to duck and move and which line to follow. You can be move to a Bantu level of impedance for $10 annual membership. That's annually, once a year. And that membership is for the unemployed or students. Now you can be a student employed, that don't cover you. But it's unemployed and student. This is $10 a year. The next level is the basic level, which is on this advertisement for $10 annually. The regular amount is $25 a year. When we get this change, it'll go back up to $25 a year. But that is for 1 year. And whatever level you're on, you have the same rights and obligation as somebody with the lifetime membership, which is $1,000 for period. You are just as important, almost, as the president. Okay? You can have your own voice. You can help make decisions. You can vote on what the organization will present the next year. But that $10 or $25 or $50, there are other different levels, membership that you can take. And you give according to the time you can afford, because this is a volunteer organization. We are not a what is it? We're not a I'm trying to say the word. We're a revolutionary organization.
Okay, that's the word.
Okay, but the other word I was trying to say, we're not a charitable organization. So if the idea is I want to join so I can get me Cadillac. I want to join so I can get these resources for my family every week. That is not us. The resources we give you is the power to get free and what you need to do it. And you know what? Anything that's free doesn't matter unless it's you. All right? So that's the value in becoming a member of this organization at this level. There are several organizations under the umbrella, but this is where you should start so you can get the education on how to become the best sons and daughters, uncles and aunts, grandparents, nieces and nephews of Africa. Uhuru, I will come back shortly and tell you exactly what we have of our goal of 150. And I'm still counting on you people online, because you know what? Just because you got the opportunity to hear us and learn from us, we want to know that you really care for us. And we want to know that you are interested. When you put your resources in, put your name, you use your put in your location so we'll know where we're reaching you, and we can, hey, we may want you to help. You may want to do a organization in your area with your family and your friends and in your neighborhood. All right? Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you, Conrad Fofi. And want to thank everybody online. We just want to give a shout out. We have comrades tuning in from Chicago, Illinois, Battle Creek, Michigan, Macon County, Georgia, and San Diego. And we may even have some more, but that's what we have today. So we want to appreciate those comrades for tuning in each and every day, each and every Sunday rally that we have. Okay, Uhuru. So next up, we will have some question and answer, some community discussion. So I'm gonna start. So when we're talking about the theme today is victory to the Uhuru 3 down with colonialism. And often it's been said that, you know, the chairman made this into a political situation. So I just wanted to ask the chairman to expound a little bit. How did you, I'm just asking the question, how did you make it political, or how did you get the attorneys to see that this was more about a political situation necessarily, more so than maybe just a battle of the law?
Uhuru, I think that's a really important question. There was a time during the 1960s where we knew a lot of lawyers who were characterized and understood to be political lawyers. They were really political lawyers, and I can name some of them. And some of them were jailed or almost jailed themselves because of how seriously they went into the courtroom to defend people who were revolutionaries and people, you know, who were struggling for freedom. And so that was common at a certain time. We had connections with them. And if you were involved in political activity, you had to have some kind of connection with them. So, but when the movement was crushed, and it was crushed militarily. When I say militarily, I don't mean they sent necessarily armies on the streets, though that did happen too. And Newark, New Jersey, and Detroit, Michigan, where airborne troops came to put down the struggle of African people. They brought them from Vietnam to fight Black people in our own communities. But I mean that assassinations, like with King, like with Malcolm X, like with other people, the arrest of people, I'm talking about the armed forces, the state, you know, jamming up people, and that crushed our movement militarily. And so what we have understood is that it crushed the movement militarily at a time when the struggle of our people had achieved a much higher level of clarity than what we've seen in this last period. And people understood we were not fighting for integration. We were fighting for Black power, to have power over our own lives, to be in charge of our own affairs, et cetera. And that's what our party was founded with the stated intent to complete that Black revolution of the 1960s, which is a political struggle. And we also understood that the success of the struggles, I mean, we go back to cases of Huey P. Newton, who was locked up in prison and held for a long time, and others, and it was the people, there was massive mobilization of the people that freed them. And the lawyers were helpful in the sense that they were able to go into that, on that platform, and say, this is what your law says. But how many people, you may know even yourselves in this room, who are in prison now, despite what the law said? I mean, that, you know, how many people? And so what we've done is create mass movements to make the political issue something that is clear. And the thing is that we went, Comrade Kumba, one of the first questions that I asked our lawyers was, do you believe we're guilty?
Okay.
And depending on what the answer to that question was, they were or were not going to be our lawyers. I don't care about some abstract concept that you believe in, everybody has a right to, no, do you believe we are guilty? This is the question that we raised with them. And they gave a lawyerly answer, most of them. But over the period of 2 years and stuff, and working and struggling with them, and them seeing stuff that they had never seen happen in any of the trials they had gone through, any of the cases they have never seen the court, the system act like this. And we were jamming them. I even sent them copies of from Marcus Garvey's books and stuff like that, books about Marcus Garvey, and constantly and consistently helping them to understand the political question, then brought them here. They saw the Black Power blueprint, they saw the work, and one of the lawyers said, now I understand why they attacked you. Yeah. This is why they attacked you and what have you. So it was it was ongoing political education with the lawyers. Yeah. And the lawyers haven't had an opportunity to have political education because most of the struggle had been crushed, and people who were still involved in struggling for self-determination were no longer on the scene. Now they have this opportunity, they had to hear us. And we were in these things all the time. And I would hear lawyers who give me lawyerly explanations for reality. I say, how do you explain then, if that's the case? How do you explain what the hell the court just did to us? How do you explain how they're moving, et cetera? And they couldn't explain those outside of the explanation that we were offering. So hopefully that's, yeah. Yeah, Uhuru.
Any questions for the chairman?
The system cannot work without the participation of the people. Yeah. Either the victims of us, when at the point where African people, especially when you look at the question of reparations, I often paint the picture of some young African, and we know them in these communities right here, being before a judge and accused of having stolen something or create some kind of, that young African being able to stand up and look that judge in the face and say, how can you accuse me of having stolen anything when I am stolen myself? When all the African people we are aware have been stolen ourselves. And we began to do that kind of stuff. And the system cannot survive that kind of examination by the victims. The victims have to believe in the system for it to work. Yeah. The victims have to believe in the system for it to work. At the moment we don't believe in the system and we move in a fashion the system cannot work. And more of the colonizers are questioning the legitimacy of the system. I think I heard Comrade Jesse talking about how when the FBI in that press conference made those statements in Tampa, Florida about what we did, and all of the comments that was in the news responses were saying that the FBI is lying. This is what the people say. The people, nobody has confidence in the FBI. So, and the system, and Trump, of course, is facilitating the ability of people to express their lack of confidence in them, but we have to recognize this as well. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Yes.
I just wanted to say that we did meet with the lawyers. It seems like about at least a year before the trial, and they went through under the chairman's leadership and struggle and political education. Yeah. They went through incredible transformation and ended up pretty militant, African internationalists in a way, and were very, very powerful in court because of the political education that you gave them.
But some of them said that the trial, their experience of the trial was life-changing. They said it was a life-changing experience. That's what the lawyers were saying.
Yeah, I just really appreciate this discussion and what Chairman Penny and you, Chairman, just said. And something else you just said a minute ago, Chairman, that you think about all of the African and colonized people who are in prison despite what the law says. Yeah. I think that's an important point because, like you say, African people are in prison because of what the law says, because it's colonial law, and also despite what the law says, and because it's like rule without regard for law. It's like you've said, Chairman, it's dictatorship of the white ruling class. And the chairman and the Uhuru 3 are on probation despite what the law says. Yeah. In this case, this is a perfect example of that. And that was actually the main point of our original motion for dismissal of the indictment, which is that even if everything that the US government accused the Uhuru movement of having done at the direction of Russia was true, which it turns out none of it was under the direction of Russia. But even if all of it was true, even if every word in the indictment had been true, to bring criminal charges was still against the law, because the law is that it is a so-called crime to act under the direction or control of a foreign government without registering with the Attorney General. It doesn't say speech. It doesn't say to engage in free speech. There are limits that the US government imposes on the right to freedom of speech, but that's not one of them. So that was something that, you made me think of when you talked about that, Chairman. And also in terms of the conspiracy charge, as you've explained before, Chairman, the conspiracy law itself has historically been used as a political weapon against the African liberation movement and against African people in general. The Panther 21 were charged under conspiracy to blow up police stations, blow up the botanical garden, kill cops, none of which actually happened. And that's what the conspiracy law is there for. It's a fallback charge. If the feds have no actual evidence of any of the things they're accusing you of doing, they charge you with conspiracy because they assume they can get a conspiracy conviction even if they can't prove anything else. And, they use it against, as people in this room are well aware, against African people all the time, with things like so-called drug charges, where there's a case that one of our attorneys talked about that she was involved in, where an African woman was charged with conspiracy because they claimed that the state claimed that her son was parking in front of her house at times when he was engaged in some kind of so-called drug deal. So she was charged with conspiracy. And in our case, it's even more absurd because while they can convict you of conspiring to do something that doesn't actually happen, like conspiracy to rob a bank, if they say, well, this guy bought the ski masks and this guy drew the floor plan of the bank, and here's a meeting recording where they said, hey, we should rob a bank next week, but the bank robbery never happened, they can still convict you of conspiracy to rob a bank. But in our case, the thing that they charged us with conspiring to do is to hide from the government that we were working for Russia. But the jury said that we weren't working for Russia. So how could we conspire to hide from the government that we were doing something that the jury agreed we never actually did? So this is perhaps the most blatant example, but the conspiracy law itself is completely a blatant instrument of the colonial state. And that's why the chairman has called on us to actually build a campaign for the elimination of these conspiracy laws as well as the foreign agent laws.
Correct. I think this is an important discussion, which is one of the reasons I'm challenging your patience right now. Because the Attorney General of the United States has just been, her name is Pam Bondi, and she is from Florida. And she has stated that they are no longer going to use the same law, the 951 law that they use to charge us with. They're not going to do that anymore unless it's a clear case of espionage or something like that, which automatically attacks even what they did to us, the basis of what they did for us. And also, it helps to make the point that the law is the opinion of the ruling class. Right. So you have one sector of the ruling class at one time saying this is the law, then somebody else comes up and says, we're not doing that anymore. That's not going to be the law. And so I think that's really important for us to understand. And, there's so much more that's involved in this, but they had nothing against us. And so it's a thought crime. So they don't have to prove you did anything. They can say that you thought about doing it. And, and they can say it's easy to convince a jury that somebody is guilty of this conspiracy without there actually being any evidence of an action. If they pick on the prejudices of the people. If they think that people are prejudiced and scared of Russia, then you say Russia, it was connected to Russia. So logic doesn't make any sense anymore. It doesn't make any difference whether it makes sense that you did it or not. And they say black people, and the white people are afraid of black people, and this image has been created of us as a people, then it doesn't matter. So they use these prejudices that they planted in the consciousness of the people for the longest period of time. And so that even though no act was committed that constitutes the crime, they can say, well, they thought about it. They thought about coming to your house at midnight and doing something bad to you. They thought about moving into your neighborhood. They thought about doing such and such a thing that they assume that the white population would be afraid of, and some of your middle class African friends as well. Uhuru.
Comment and then a question.
Closer to the mic.
My comment is your appeal, I'm hoping that you're able to get all of your legal fees back too. And with that, I don't know if that's a whole separate process, but I also think, you know, because you can probably raise those a lot quicker too if you say that if you do win that appeal and the legal fees on top of pain and suffering fees, that you'll pay a percentage back to whoever donates, and you get your legal fees probably overnight. But the other thing I wanted to ask is, what are those, I guess, the key principles that everybody needs to organize around? Because you got the ruling class, they'll stand up for each other around certain things, like even the Democrats and Republicans, they will come together over certain points. What are the things that we need to make sure we're coming together over, that, you know, when this happens, then we're there on it?
I think what's really important, and what we've done, and we've learned some things from the 1960s, but things have changed since then. So this is not necessarily a criticism of exactly what happened in the 1960s. But one thing that we were clear on is that we were not trying to convince the court or the judges that they should be Black revolutionaries. Right. We're not trying to convince them that Black revolution was good. We're not trying to convince them that they should be African internationalists. What we are saying is that your law says I have a right to say these things. That's where I'm going to fight you on. I think it's really important for us to be on message and to know what the struggle is about. So we're not going to get these courts to endorse revolution, Black liberation, etc. I don't care if they endorse it or not. What I'm saying is that your law says I have a right to think this, to say this, and this is what is putting you on the spot. So you have to validate yourself. I'm not asking for validation from you. I'm asking you to validate yourself. And we got a whole movement of people who are involved in saying to the court that this is the law that you say you believe in. And I think that's the fundamental question, not to be confused. We have to learn how to do some other things as well. We have to learn not to be drawn into crazy discussions by people who can use that as the basis of conspiracy charges and things like that. We have to have our own agenda as a people. That's why we have the Black Power, the Black Community Convention here. That's why we have a To What End. That's why we have our platform that we studied from today. We have to have our own agenda. So that's what we are on point with all the time, our agenda. So that, because your enemy will come and do all kinds of things to take you off your agenda, take you off your point, have you doing something else over here when your agenda, your tactics, your strategy calls for such and such a thing to be free. So I hope that was helpful. And I think the real thing is to continue to remember that the power is in the people. To have confidence in the people. And that means that we have to provide the political education and explanation over and over and over again. Tell the truth. That's why I love what Jesse Tarver says, just tell the truth. That's all. We take it to the people. Explain to the people. Explain what their interests are in this issue. And when I say the people, I mean all the people. I mean the indigenous people who are involved in the struggle, like Leonard Peltier. I'm talking to white people who need to know that the reason they are afraid is because of this system and how it works and pits people against each other. And while they suck the blood of Black people, yes, I'm going to fight back when you do that. And then helping them to understand that they don't have to be on that side. I'm talking about our own folk. You know, explain over and over again what the objective reality is. And that means that we also are struggling with other kinds of ideas in our own communities. I'm talking about, like, we got a Black mayor. The Black mayor is talking about she stands for reparation. We got a Black mayor in St. Petersburg, Florida. They say they stand for reparation. But they participated with the FBI in the attacks that they made on us We are the organization, I say this explicitly without any hesitation, that made reparations a household word in this country and much of the world. We did that. We did that. I was personally involved in this, et cetera, et cetera. So they're full of nonsense. And you don't see a reparations program coming out from them that speaks to the interests of the African working class majority of the people. If you got their phone number in your back pocket, you may get some play from them. Otherwise, we're on our own. Yeah. Oh,
Okay, Kofi.
oh, okay,
No,
good.
I have a comment.
Oh,
During the trial, I was tried to get a group of poets and artists to send recordings. And the way I got them is that they want to take free speech away from us. They want to make it illegal through this trial.
there you are.
And I know how artists, spoken word artists and poets,
Yeah.
which are one and two of the same, how they felt about free speech. Because that's a lot of livelihood, they're creative, they paint, they do everything from spoken word. And they said, well, how can they take it? I said, we lose this case. That gives them right to try to take it or limit what we say.
Yeah.
And my exact words was, I'd be damned if they take my free speech. And so if you want to get in this, I got a lot of poets around the country to commit to pieces that they had written and recorded, and that was part of the Uhuru movement, more poetry, and the event we had here. That was what it was for, because they felt that they got a word to say and they want to keep it saying. So this brought in many people because they thought, well, I thought we had free speech. I said, you thought we had it, but just like it was supposed to be given to you, guess what? It can be taken away. So I want to say thank you again, because we won.
I would just add to that, I thank you, Comrade 4 Feet, that the free speech, even artists who, you know, like with painters and stuff like that, and sculptures, etc., that's considered, that falls within the realm of speech. And because the courts will punish people if they even have the wrong art. We've seen this in cases involving me, where people did art, and they were even given a commission to do art, and it was taken from them, and the work that they did was removed because the state didn't like what they put up because it had something to do with struggles that I had been involved in. So the thing is that even that is considered speech. Even music, song. The government doesn't like the song that you sing. It's speech. So Bring the Boys Home. Who was that? Frida Payne? Who did that song? Anybody remember? Yeah, that was during the height of the Vietnam War. What did Eartha Kitt do to lose her rights to even perform? When she was in this meeting with the women, with Lady Bird Johnson, Lyndon Baines Johnson's wife, and told her that she ought to get her husband to end this Vietnamese war. That did it for her. Look at Miriam Makeba, who was a magnificent artist who was characterized ultimately as Mama Africa, because her stance against apartheid, at first, she couldn't speak in South Africa where she was living, and then because she married Stokely Carmichael. And when she married Stokely Carmichael, who came to be known as Kwame Ture, she couldn't work anymore. They took away our livelihood in this country and what have you. So free speech, it does involve, you know, like a lot of these things that we're talking about, more than just, you know, words. There are other expressions that are characterized as free speech. Uhuru.
Uhuru, I am so I am so exceptionally happy to be a part of this, right here, right now. And my children and my grandchildren will benefit from grandma being a revolutionary. Today, comrades, thank you. Today our goal was $150. We have gained $185. Now I want to have a message to the people online. Whenever you get to see this online, if you watch it later, if you watch it this week, still donate. Still continue to donate and put in your donation box that where you located, and it's for the Sunday rally. Okay, I appreciate that. And Uhuru.
Any other questions, discussions? Okay, we didn't have any online, but I just wanted to give another shout out to the online participation. One correction, that's Merriam County, Georgia, and add on there are forces in New Orleans and Collegeville, Pennsylvania, who are watching as well. And I wanted to also give a shout out to Comrades Kabula and Comrade Malit for donating, and Comrade MQ and everything for donating online to the resources. Yes.
There was a comment from one of the donors that said, free the land.
Well, we want to do that. Free the land. Free the land. And when you donate, just a little housekeeping note, make sure that if you see the link in Impedum, donate that direction for Impedum donations. Impedum IEC is what it says. And that's how you should be doing that. But nevertheless, moving forward, before we go any further, we do have announcements coming up. We're going to have announcements split. We're going to have one announcement for Black Power Blueprint, I believe, through Ali. And then after that, Comrade Sophia will do the rest of the announcements for this evening. Come on.
Uhuru. My name's Allison Haney. I'm a very proud member of the African People's Solidarity Committee also, and incredibly honored to work under the leadership of Deputy Chair Ona Zanea Shatella in all the Black Power Blueprint programs that Deputy Chair has engineered and architected and brought to life. And just really want to salute this incredible NPDUM rally. And, you know, the powerful presentations by the Uhuru 3 and Chairman Amalia Shatella that prove without a doubt the science of if you fight, you win. Yeah. And this is what we've experienced also in the Black Power Blueprint projects and the African People's Education and Defense Fund recently under Deputy Chair's incredible leadership in the past 9 months, where we fought and won the right of the Uhuru movement to have a bakery and cafe, not run by Russia, but run by the African People's Education and Defense Fund, right up here on West Florissant. And like Chair Jesse said, that was a denial of a permit, despite what the law said, because then at the appeal in February 12th, the Board of Adjustment had to say, yes, it does fit everything that you're supposed to, you know, fulfill to have this permit. So this is the kind of struggle that APDF has been in. And so now Uhuru Bakery and Cafe can move forward and build. And these are some of the things this week that people can participate in. Uhuru Pies is going to be having a pie table at the Northwest Coffee Roasters on Friday, the 14th, this Friday, 9 to 2. That's at 4251 Laclede Avenue. And people can come and help staff that. If anybody here would like to do that, you can talk to us in the back. After this, maybe talk to Maureen Wagner right here. And then also there's going to be an Uhuru Foods and Pies pop-up at the Uhuru Solidarity Movement pre-convention meet and greet on Friday, also at 6 o'clock at the Uhuru Solidarity Center. And that's at 2654 Gravois Avenue on the south side. People can also pre-order pies. If you want a pie that you want to make sure you get the pie that you want, you can pre-order it at www.uhurupies.org by this Wednesday, and then we'll have your pie ready for you for the weekend. So you can also volunteer to staff by baking with us at Centenary Kitchen on Thursday, March 13th, and also on Saturday, March 22nd. So those are some great volunteer opportunities coming up. And then the other announcement that we have, next slide, is on the African People's Education and Defense Fund is launching a new garden season. And we will be expanding the Gary Brooks Community Garden and preparing for a second community garden, a larger one further down West Florissant. And APDF is working to end food apartheid and put more fresh food into the African community. And in that process, APDF is going to be hiring for this program. So there's 4 part-time positions available. And if people here or you know people who would be interested in applying, you can let people know to apply at tinyurl.com/APDF garden application, or write to info@apdf.org, or come here to the Uhuru House to talk to APDF about those positions. And please, spread the word about that, because these are great opportunities for gardeners and people who want to be involved in that project. So we also have 2 work days at the Gary Brooks Black Power Community Garden. That's not up there, but they're on Saturday, April 6th. These are the first work days of the year, where people be preparing the ground and planting for the year. So that's Saturday, April 6th, and also Saturday, April 19th. So thank you so much. Uhuru.
Okay, so I'm Sophia and I'm here with a few announcements. And the first announcement is for the Black is Back Coalition. It's the 9th annual electoral campaign school with the title of The Ballot and the Bullet. Not one day, not one dime. No compromise, no surrender. And it'll be held April 12th and 13th right here at the Aquaba Hall here in St. Louis. You can register at www.blackisbackcoalition.org. And all of those are all spelled out. So make sure you go online and get registered for that, so that you receive the update and the email reminders and all of that for that. Then we have the Burning Spear newspaper. You want to make sure you get your copy in order today at the Burning Spear store, or you can subscribe to theburningspear.com/subscribe. You can get either your paper copy or your electronic copy, or both if you decide. And then you can also pick up bundles so that you can share with your community as well. And then the third announcement is about the Thursday studies. It's from 7 p.m. Central Time on Zoom, or you can catch it on Facebook. To register, you'll go to tinyurl.com/RNDP studies. That's tinyurl.com/RNDP studies, STUDIES. And that's one great source to get your political education. If you have a difficult time understanding some of the things being talked about here, you can go there, get a lot of your information. You can ask questions. If you are confused about things, you can get things cleared up for you there. Again, that's on Thursdays from 7 p.m. on Zoom Central Standard Time. The fourth thing is that we need to help. We need your help to build these community rallies. So we need you to reach out to people that you know that will be interested in this type of information, even if you don't think they may be interested in information, because sometimes it's just being able to hear that one thing that creates that spark within you, so that you'll want to know more. And because a lot of times people are out there, they're feeling they feel powerless. And then once they come across something where it seems like they can get their power back, then that'll be something that they'd be interested in. And so if you can get the message out to people, just if you come across clips of the meetings, share it with them. if you come across certain things that are said, just share it with them and where you got the information from to spark that interest so that they would want to come. We also need, and when you become a member of Impedum, you get to share your skills, and they're not just in being a political educator. You don't have to have all of the knowledge right here, right now, but you can do small things like you can help with the care move. You can help with the audio visual, just like how we're televising it now so that it's not reliant on one person. If you want to help with doing the announcements, it's whatever skills you have, we ask that you let people know who would be interested in these type of things. Sometimes people are looking to gain skills in certain areas. And this is one way you can get your public speaking skills up if you want to do something like that, or if you just want to kind of get out there. So that is one thing we need to help with, is building these Sunday rallies. And then the fifth announcement is the When We Speak event that'll be taking place on March 30th. It'll be an event of different poets, women poets, and of things that need to be heard. And again, back to that free speech. It'll be at the St. Louis Artworks, STL Artworks, on March 30th between 6 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. It'll be at the 5959 Delmar. And to get your ticket, you go to tickets at T-Spirit the Poet. Again, that's at TSPIRITTHEPOET.com. You can also find them on Instagram at T-Spirit2019. So we look forward to seeing you out there. And I think that concludes, oh no. The sixth announcement is we're looking to build the African National Women's Organization. So if you are a woman that is in the St. Louis area and you know that there are specific things that women face that you want to be a part of making a positive change in their life, we ask that you join us. So you can always go to ANWOUHURU.org. So ANWOUHURU.org. And you can search all of our tabs and see what the organization is about. And then there also is the registration page. They have different I'm sorry. So they have different weekly, no, well, the memberships are different, but they have weekly just informational sessions like what we're doing today. So similar to the rally, they have trainings and teachings and different things like that, book studies. So get a part of that, and you can also get your political education, and it'll be more geared towards women issues. So make sure you, if you're interested, we're looking to help build. We're also looking to, because the applications are open right now for the farmers market that we have every year from June to October over at the O'Fallon Park. So if you know people who have items that they want to sell or services that they want to promote, that's a great place to get reserve a spot so that you can bring your information to the community, your information and your products to the community at a very reasonable rate. You can go online and register there, One Africa, One Nation Farmers Market, and get your reservations for that. So I think that concludes my announcements. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, and here at the rallies, I'm here mostly every week. So we'll see you, and hope you'll be interested in participating. Thank you.
Thank you, comrades. Appreciate all the announcements. I do have one community announcement that I want someone to come up and share from Sabayat, if you would, brother, please, and step to this mic. That too. But no, thank you, Sabaye.
My name is Brother Quay from Sabaye Incorporated. It's an organization been in the city of St. Louis for 30 years. We were Juneteenth for the last 19 years. So I was here, so I stopped by and sell some raffle tickets or sponsor child tickets to fund the event. If you're interested, you can get them from me. And just give you a little history of Sabaye. We are a revolutionary group also.
Watch out.
We built a clinic in Ghana right? In Cape Coast area, there's a clinic running, funded by our members and dime from ourselves, like from government grants or city, even when government don't sponsor. So we do it ourselves. We also gonna build an education center right there on the beach, next to it. So there ain't no pie in the sky when you die, there's some sound on the ground while you're still alive.
That's what's up.
So you're doing it. Check us out. We've been over there 30 years, we also do a study group, studying our history, our culture for the last 20 years. We did lecture, I met brother O'Malley doing Ferguson. That's the first time I met you. I know you probably don't remember, we spoke together over East St. Louis too.
Okay, right on.
Brother Sunshine's Culture Center.
Yes.
But hotel.
All right, Uhuru. Wait a minute, we popping with announcements.
We have one new member to impede on.
When?
Just about 2 minutes ago.
Who?
Well, he
What? He's indisposed. Well, what you said? Uhuru, to the new member of Impedo, right on. Oh, I wish I had something consolation to give him. There I do. Guess I do. When he leave, make sure he get a couple of these to pass him. All right, comrades, I want to appreciate that. Oh, and just one more note. Pardon a little bit of the disarray, but just want you to go to impedembigcartel.com. This is where we have some material, some garb, some nice hoodies, and other wear that you can put on. You got the logos on t-shirts, you can get them on the hats. You have Rodney Walter, you have the logo for the party, etc. And you can get your Uhuru swag there. That's economic development for the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. Uhuru. Come again. And oh yeah, and last but definitely not least, next week we won't be here, but next week we will have the Uhuru Solidarity National Convention. That's white solidarity with Black power, joining the growing movement, solidarity with African, Indigenous, Palestinian, and oppressed peoples. That's Saturday, March the 15th or the 16th. That's this year, starting at 9 a.m. Central to 5 p.m. Central. That'll be here at the Uhuru House. You can go to tiny URL /USMMC convention. You can also go to info@uhurusolidarity.org for more. There's QR code as well. And if you, like a lot of people still, you can use that old telephone, 328-4816 and get further information on that. All right. Uzi Gear is going to be coming back, and you know, watch out for that. That's also part of economic development. Also, for those people that are online, we thank you once again each and every Sunday, but you can also help participate with the Sunday rallies in any of the avenues that we have listed. And we also know that you got some skills that can help us build this Black Community Convention, the first annual Black Community Convention that will be in St. Louis in July. So we want you there or you'll be square. All right. So once again, we thank you for coming to this Sunday rally. We're located at 4101 West Florissant. We're here every Sunday, 3 to 5 p.m. We're on the corner of Alice and West Florissant. Until next time, comrades, Uhuru.